Imagine you're driving down this pitch black, winding highway, right? Middle of winter.
Terrifying.
Right. And suddenly your foot just kind of eases off the accelerator. Your car gently starts to slow down. But not because you saw something in the headlights.
And not because the radar up front
Right,
tripped.
exactly. You're slowing down because a car, like 3 miles ahead of you, just hit this invisible patch of black ice. And your car already knows about it.
Yeah. That scenario really captures the exact threshold we're crossing right now.
It's wild to think about.
It is. So looking at this whole stack of technology and AI updates from May 6th, 2026, the big common thread here is really the death of the passive machine.
The passive machine.
Meaning we are transitioning completely out of the era where you input a command and just sit there and wait for a response. The tech isn't waiting for us anymore. It's anticipating, it's communicating, and it's taking action.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. If you've been feeling totally overwhelmed by just the sheer velocity of AI news lately, our mission today is to cut right through that noise for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise.
There really is. But we're tracing this massive fundamental shift in how artificial intelligence actually functions. Because when you synthesize all these updates, this really clear picture emerges. AI is cementing itself as this active, collaborative partner in almost every single facet of human life. So we're going to break down how this partnership is rewiring 4 distinct areas of your day-to-day existence.
And we're starting with the most intimate space possible, which is your biology.
Right. Let's get into the healthcare side of things.
So the big breakthrough here is in proactive healthcare. Specifically, this newly deployed deep learning model that's designed for the early detection of Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
And to really grasp the magnitude of this, you kind of have to look at the mechanics of how doctors traditionally look at brain scans versus how this new model operates.
Because normally, human eyes are just looking for the obvious damage, right?
Exactly. A human neurologist looks at an MRI, and they're searching for macro-level structural changes, like shrinkage in the hippocampus, for example. But by the time those physical changes are actually visible to a human eye, the disease has usually progressed pretty significantly.
Right. Okay, let's bring this down to a practical visualization for a second.
Sure.
Relying on the human eye to find those early indicators, it feels a bit like trying to solve this massive million-piece jigsaw puzzle, but you're only looking at the picture on the box. You're just hoping to spot the overall image forming. But this new deep learning model, it operates entirely differently.
Totally different.
Because it isn't looking at the quote-unquote picture at all. It's simultaneously analyzing the exact shape, the curvature, the microscopic edges of all 1 million individual cardboard tabs to see where they mathematically fit together.
I love that analogy. And the actual mechanism driving that mathematical sorting is voxel analysis.
Voxel.
Yeah, voxel. It's essentially a 3D pixel.
Oh, okay.
So when this AI scans the brain, it is processing the spatial relationships between millions of these voxels at the exact same time.
Wow.
Right. It's searching for these infinitesimal pixel-level variations in tissue density, things that a human retina simply did not evolve to perceive. So it detects the structural anomaly way before it becomes a visible lesion.
Which is incredible. But, okay, the push here is to integrate this capability directly into routine medical screenings worldwide.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And that brings up a massive paradigm shift for the patient experience. I mean, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
If I go in for my standard annual physical, right, the one where they check my blood pressure, tell me to lay off the salty snacks.
Right, the usual.
The usual. I might also be getting a 5-year neurological forecast generated by an algorithm. Relying on this AI analysis could become as unquestioned as getting your cholesterol checked.
It very likely will.
But what does that do to the doctor-patient dynamic? Because the machine is essentially flagging a life-altering trajectory before you even feel a single symptom.
The tension there is very real. I mean, it fundamentally changes the entire timeline of medical intervention.
Right.
But the real value proposition here is the gift of time. Because the AI excels at this hyper-specific pattern recognition, it actually buys the human doctor years of runway to intervene.
So they can act sooner.
Exactly. The goal is to catch the anomaly at that tiny microscopic puzzle piece stage, like you said, and then deploy therapies to potentially slow down the disease's progression.
That makes sense.
The AI handles the impossible data processing, which actually frees up the doctor to handle the human elements, the empathy, the context, the overall treatment strategy.
Okay, so the AI maps the hidden structures of our physical brains. That's the biological partner.
Right.
Let's pivot a bit and look at what happens when AI starts interacting with what those brains actually create. This moves us right into the creative partner.
Yes, moving from biology to art.
Exactly. So the updates feature this newly launched AI-powered platform built specifically for artists and designers. And interestingly, the creative community's reaction is, like, surprisingly enthusiastic.
It really is. And I think that enthusiasm stems from how the platform positions itself.
Yeah.
It's not this autonomous generator that you just hit print on and walk away.
Okay.
It's an interactive workspace. So a user inputs an overarching artistic vision or concept, and the AI actively collaborates. It suggests color palettes, generates textural overlays, and it can even render original visual components to enhance that initial idea.
Okay, I actually have to push back on the framing here a little bit.
Go for it.
Because the narrative being championed is that this is a tool for empowerment, right? A way to break through creative blocks.
Yeah, that's the pitch.
But let's look at the actual workflow. If I log into this platform and give it a concept, let's say, I don't know, a dystopian cityscape at twilight.
Cool concept.
Right. But then the algorithm decides the specific neon green for the lighting. It generates the rusted metallic textures on the buildings, and it composes the background elements. At what point am I no longer the artist? I mean, I feel like I'm just an art director giving a brief to a very fast digital freelancer. When do we surrender the soul of the work to the machine's execution?
That is the defining philosophical debate of generative design right there.
Right, because it feels like you're losing authorship.
When you delegate the execution, do you dilute the authorship?
Yeah.
But you have to consider the evolution of artistic tools. Like, think about the invention of the portable paint tube in the 19th century.
The paint tube.
Yeah. Before that, artists had to painstakingly grind their own pigments in a studio. It was manual labor. But the paint tube meant they could actually go outside and paint the Impressionist movement.
Ah, I see.
Or think about digital rendering software. It eliminated the need to use physical strings to find vanishing points. Every technological leap initially feels like it's, doing too much of the work.
But wait, grinding pigment is a chore, sure. But mixing the exact perfect shade of blue on a palette, that friction, trying to make your hands match the vision in your head. Isn't that struggle the actual process of making art?
For some people, yes. The friction is the art.
Right.
But for a lot of others, a creative block happens when the gap between their conceptual vision and their actual technical capability is just too wide.
Oh, so they have the idea, but not the skills to pull it off.
Exactly. And what this AI platform does is collapse that latent space. It removes the friction of execution. The human being still holds the monopoly on the intention.
You're still picking the destination.
Yes. You choose the destination, the emotion, the conceptual framing. The AI simply provides this highly sophisticated vocabulary of colors and textures to help you articulate that vision faster.
So it's an incredibly skilled navigator, but you're still charting the course.
Precisely.
I can totally see why designers facing a tight deadline would embrace that. But collaborating with a generative model in the safety of a digital art studio is relatively low stakes, right?
Very low stakes.
If the AI suggests a terrible color scheme, you just hit undo.
Right. No harm done.
But let's move to our third area, where hitting undo is definitely not an option. We're moving from the creative partner to the environmental partner. Let's talk about automotive safety and the physical world.
Yes, this is where it gets incredibly consequential. The automotive updates show a consortium of major car manufacturers rolling out this new machine learning safety architecture.
And this isn't just standard cruise control.
No, it's a massive leap beyond localized reactive safety features. Things like automatic emergency braking or lane keep assist. Those legacy systems, they rely entirely on the sensors attached to your specific car.
They only see what's right in front of them.
Exactly. They only know what is happening directly in front of your own bumper.
So the critical mechanism in this new architecture is vehicle-to-vehicle, or V2V, real-time data sharing.
Yes, V2V.
These cars are constantly communicating with each other, creating this interconnected network to manage traffic and predict hazards. And when I was looking at the telemetry protocols for this, the analogy that immediately popped into my head was a massive flock of starlings.
Oh, a murmuration.
Yes. When you watch a murmuration of birds moving across the sky, they never crash into each other. If the bird at the very front dips to avoid a hawk, the entire flock ripples and adjusts its trajectory in milliseconds.
It's beautiful to watch.
It is, because they move as a single connected organism.
And that murmuration analogy perfectly illustrates the shift from individual safety to collective safety.
Right.
Let's go back to your opening scenario with the black ice. When that lead car hits the ice, its internal systems, the anti-lock brakes, the traction control, they generate these microbursts of slip data.
Okay.
In a legacy vehicle, that data stays trapped inside the car. Nobody else knows about it. But in this new V2V ecosystem, the AI instantly packages that slip data, tags it with GPS coordinates, and broadcasts it to the surrounding network.
Yeah.
But wait, that has to happen without totally overwhelming the cellular networks, right? I mean, you can't have thousands of cars streaming high-definition video of the road to some central server.
Yeah.
The latency alone would cause a massive pileup.
Exactly, which is why this relies entirely on edge computing. The vehicles aren't sending video feeds. They are transmitting these incredibly lightweight, standardized hazard codes directly to the vehicles around them.
Oh, so it's instantaneous.
Right. So the AI in your car receives that little code, calculates your current speed, your trajectory, your distance from the hazard, and it actually begins feathering your brakes before you even consciously realize there's a problem.
That is wild.
The network learns from the kinetic experience of a single vehicle to protect the entire fleet.
Which means every single time someone drives to the grocery store or commutes in a rainstorm or swerves to miss a pothole, the global hive mind of this system just gets a little bit smarter.
Constantly learning.
The AI is learning from our collective physical reflexes to map out the unpredictable nature of the real world.
And this is really the foundational infrastructure required for fully autonomous driving. Autonomy simply cannot exist safely if every car is an isolated island just guessing at its environment.
Right.
The AI has to be a collaborative partner, not just with the driver, but with the environment itself.
Okay, so we've covered a tremendous amount of ground here. We have AI reading the microscopic voxels of our biology. We have AI collapsing the distance between imagination and execution in our art. And AI weaving our cars into this telepathic flock to keep us physically safe. But the final update in our stack addresses how this partnership is securing our future stability. We are moving to the strategic partner, personal finance and wealth management.
Right, the financial sector.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a massive deployment of AI-driven applications that go way beyond those automated saving rules or, basic budgeting pie charts.
We're way past the pie charts.
Way past them. These new platforms conduct deep behavioral analysis on a user's entire financial life to generate hyper-personalized wealth management strategies. They advise on dynamic spending limits, optimal investment allocations, even debt reduction pacing.
Now, the narrative surrounding this is the quote-unquote democratization of financial expertise. And historically speaking, that makes total sense.
Yeah, how so?
Well, if you wanted a human fiduciary to actively manage your portfolio, analyze your tax liabilities, monitor your cash flow, you needed a massive minimum account balance. It was a service completely gated behind a high net worth.
Absolutely.
But the algorithm scales that exact level of analytical expertise to zero marginal cost. It's putting a Wall Street strategist in the pocket of an average earner.
The democratizing factor is crucial, but you have to look at the mechanics of how the AI generates this advice. It relies on the exact same core strength we talked about with the Alzheimer scans.
Pattern recognition.
Exactly. Unbiased pattern recognition.
Yeah.
Because human financial advisors, despite all their expertise, they have cognitive blind spots.
Right, they're human.
They might subconsciously favor certain asset classes or make assumptions based on clients' age or demographic. And fundamentally, a human just cannot monitor the velocity of your microtransactions 24 hours a day.
I mean, I totally understand the computing advantage there, but I have to raise the trust issue here.
Fair enough.
Handing over the strategic reins of my life savings and my retirement to an app that is essentially just surveilling my daily credit card swipes, it feels incredibly precarious.
It sounds a bit dystopian when you put it like that.
Right. What happens when the algorithm hallucinates a trend? Or what if it misinterprets a sudden spike in my spending just because I had to pay an emergency medical bill?
Well, the architecture of these specific platforms is designed to contextually flag those anomalies, rather than just blindly reacting to them.
Okay, so it asks before it acts.
Right, but the massive advantage of the algorithm watching your daily swipes is that it identifies behavioral leaks that you are completely blind to.
Oh, like the coffee subscriptions?
Yeah, or worse. It analyzes the correlation between your recurring subscription costs, your weekend impulse buys, shifting interest rates, and your long-term goals, all simultaneously.
Wow.
It sees the structural weakness in your financial habits before it actually collapses your savings. It acts as a completely objective mirror.
So, in the same way the medical AI finds the voxel anomaly before the doctor sees the lesion, the financial AI spots the compounding interest disaster long before my bank account actually hits zero.
That's the exact parallel, yes.
It's doing all that heavy analytical lifting in the background to continuously course correct my trajectory.
It's an ambient strategist. It doesn't force your hand, but it constantly models the future permutations of your current behavior and then presents you with the optimal path forward.
You know, when you step back and look at the totality of these May 2026 updates, the sheer ubiquity of this technology is staggering.
It really is everywhere.
From the quiet hum of a server analyzing the hidden corners of your brain, to the digital canvas rendering your ideas, to the invisible network of cars communicating through a winter storm, to the app quietly compounding your retirement funds.
Yeah.
The era of the passive calculator is entirely behind us. AI is an active, deeply integrated collaborator in the human experience.
And that transition from using a tool to relying on a partner, it changes our fundamental relationship with our own environment. The technology is relentlessly optimizing our lives for safety, speed, and efficiency.
And for you listening, you know, this isn't abstract futurism. This is the new architecture of your daily routine. It is going to dictate how you navigate your healthcare, your commute, your creative hobbies, and your finances.
But as we wrap up this exploration, there is a pretty profound complication we have to acknowledge here.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Today's sources illustrate a world where an incredibly brilliant partner is constantly learning from our biology, our driving reflexes, and our spending habits just to make the optimal, safest decisions on our behalf. But as we increasingly offload that cognitive burden, we really have to ask ourselves a difficult question. If a machine is always there to prevent the crash, fix the painting, and stop the bad investment, what happens to our human intuition?
Wow.
And more importantly, what happens to our willingness to make the messy, painful mistakes that have historically been the only way we truly learn?
Man, that is a phenomenal question to leave on. Are we building a world so perfectly optimized that we engineer the human struggle right out of it? It is definitely something to seriously weigh as you navigate this new collaborative reality. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you next time.